Hey folks, oops, hold on. All right, so let's jump right in. Keep on talking about our muscles. So now we're going to talk about our muscles that move the head and the trunk, specifically our anterior muscles that move the head and the trunk. So we're going to be talking in lab 1.3 about abdominal muscles. And then the next little short lab lecture, we'll be talking about your erector spinae. All right. So muscles that move the trunk are our abdominal muscles. So we have four anterolateral muscles, meaning they're on the front and they go to the sides of our body. We all know where our abs are. Everybody hit your abs a couple times. We know where they're at. We want to keep nice and healthy and strong so that we can, have good body function and a strong core and a healthy back, and also helps to keep our internal organs in. This is pretty important. So collectively, our abdominal muscles compress and hold the abdominal organs in place and flex the vertebral column, meaning helps us to bend our back forward, bend down to touch our toes, for example. So we don't really talk about the first bullet point there, but if you think about it, your abdominal organs are held in place a lot really by muscle, right? By the abdominal muscles and also the pelvic floor muscles. So these are really important muscles in that they do help to hold all the contents of your guts in, right? We need that. And of course, also abdominal muscles flexing our vertebral column as they work together. And then also they help us to rotate the trunk as well. We have 3 layers of muscle in the abdomen. Let me fix this real quick here if I can. We have 3 layers of muscle in the abdomen. We have the internal, the external and most superficial. Then, you okay, buddy? Yeah. Then we have our internal and rectus abdominis muscles are in the middle layer, and then transverse abdominis is the deepest. So our external oblique is the most superficial. The internal obliques and the rectus abdominis are the next layer, and then our transverse abdominis is the deepest muscle. So here are the muscles of the abdominal wall, and I'm going to give you guys a couple of different images to look at for these. Then we're also going to jump to our online viewer, and then we'll have some videos demonstrating different movements. So the left side of your screen is the quote-unquote superficial side. Okay, that's the superficial side. So it's like what we would see if we just saw the muscle and we hadn't cut below the first layer of muscle. So on our superficial side, we can see we have we have the aponeurosis of the stomach, the aponeurosis of the external oblique, aponeurosis right here. We may have learned this in class. We will learn in kinesiology for sure. An aponeurosis is a sheet of tendon that helps to connect many muscles together. So that's our aponeurosis. It kind of covers up what's underneath, which is the rectus abdominis muscle, among others. So here's our external oblique on the left-hand side of your screen. If you put your right hand here on the side of your stomach and just kind of turn to your right, turn to your left, you'll feel those obliques, and you can kind of crunch over to your side, do a little side crunch here, and you can feel that external oblique starting to work. Your rectus abdominis, that's what gives us the quote-unquote 8-pack, 6-pack, 2-pack, whatever, or not a pack, but they're still there. This is a long kind of strap type of muscle that is separated by lines of tendon. We also have way beneath our deepest level, we have our transverse abdominis, and we'll get a closer look at that later, and our internal oblique. So our internal oblique and our rectus abdominis make up that middle layer, and then our transverse abdominis is the lowest or the most internal layer of muscle that we have in the abdomen. And then here's our external oblique, but it's cut. So this is just showing you that the external oblique has been cut there. So muscles that move the trunk, our rectus abdominis is the abdominal muscle we're the most familiar with, and this is the one that we can, if somebody's super lean, you can see that they have, these muscle definitions here in their abdomen. The origin of the rectus abdominis is on the pubic bone. The crest of the pubis, I'm going to switch to the red pointer here, guys. I think it works a little better. On the crest of the pubis and the pubic symphysis, that's where the pubic bones come together. No children were hurt during that noise. We just dumped the boys out. Now the toy box is on top of his head. So origin, crest, the pubic, and the pubic symphysis. Insertion is a xiphoid process in the costal cartilage. So everybody, if you're not standing up right now, go ahead and stand up, and I'll stand up too, and I'll do it right along with you. So everybody stand up. And what you can do is you can actually put kind of one hand, put your hands kind of flat on your abdomen, right? If you spread your hand across your abdomen pretty flat, you can feel that rectus abdominis is, and now just kind of tense that stomach up a little bit and then bend over, right? Bend over and think about kind of crunching over, and you can feel that rectus abdominis pulling Now we have the origin on the pubic symphysis and the pubic bone, and the insertion is on the xiphoid process. So when we contract our rectus abdominis, we are pulling that rib cage downward towards the pelvic bone, and we can all tell that we're doing that. And when you do a crunch or some type of abdominal exercise, you can feel that happening as well. Its action is vertebral flexion or trunk flexion is another word for that. Your external oblique, its origins on the lower surface of the external surface of the lower 8 ribs. It inserts on the anterior iliac crest and by the abdominal aponeurosis. And here's our picture. And then it laterally flexes and rotates the trunk. And then when we use one of them, and when both of them contract, they assist in front and trunk flexion. So let's again, y'all stand up. I've got to keep sitting by the computer here. I found out last time. So when we take a look here, here's our picture. It's originating on the surface of the lower 8 ribs, and when somebody's really cut, you can see they have kind of like that little sharp edge to these muscles right there, is where they kind of insert with the serratus anterior muscles. So our external oblique, it's on the outermost layer of muscle. Remember when we learned the iliac crest right there, and the anterior iliac crest is going to be the iliac crest in the front. So if you find your anterior superior iliac spine, it's going to be inserting right about there and then kind of on back the iliac crest, and it wraps around the side of your muscle. So if we laterally flex, it means we're going to bend to our right and then bend over to our left. And then if we turn to our right and turn to our left, that external oblique is helping us with that action too. Okay, so here's our external oblique. And then here's your rectus femoris, external oblique, rectus femoris, bam. And then your external oblique is cut on the side to see that rectus abdominis. Okay. There's just another view. I like to show you guys a couple different illustrations along with, I'm going to look at the computer, our little computer generated guy next here. Okay. Now let's take a look real quickly at our external oblique. Oh, shoot. Okay, this should work. So here we are on our little Get Body Smart page. The external oblique is in green. We can see how it interacts right here with the serratus anterior muscle. And then here's our rectus abdominis right here. Okay. And take note, there's the abdominal aponeurosis right there. I'm also going to show you guys the rectus abdominis while we're here, so we don't have to go click on that link again. We can kind of get a little bit deeper here as we kind of work our way through the muscles and really isolate and see those muscles there. I think you guys will appreciate that AARP is that's association something for retired professionals. They're advertising to be on this page, which I think is fine. Okay, back to our lecture. All right, and if you click here, this will take you directly to the link for the rectus abdominis, which you can't click there because it's a lecture. So, I'll make sure to post a version of this lecture that's not in screencast, so you guys can click to the links yourselves. Glad I realized that. Oh, no, buddy, don't rip all that out. Oh, my goodness. All right, here we go. This is why our house is so messy. All right, let's practice our external oblique movements. So first we're going to go to trunk rotation. Rotate that trunk. All right, so we're going to go to our 17. We're going to go to our 17th second part. Oh, there we go. Hang on. Let me quiet this very nice lady now. Okay, so we can see that is trunk rotation right there, rotating over to the left-hand side. And then at some point, she's going to rotate over to the right-hand side. And you can slowly take a breath and let it out if you like to. Okay, so that's trunk rotation. All right, back we go. All right, now let's practice some trunk flexion. Here we go. Pretty simple. Bending over. There we go. Trunk flexion. Awesome. And of course, guys, I'd be showing you this in class, but we're not in class, so we're going with some YouTube. All right. There we go. And then again, if we're using our rectus abdominis, trunk flexion, exact same video I showed you before, bending over, flexing that trunk, bending the trunk forward. Okay. Now let's talk about our internal oblique real quick. So here's our internal oblique. So one thing I forgot to mention before, but I'll mention now, the external oblique fibers run diagonally, right? They start up high and they run down low into the middle of the body. So it's kind of like taking your hands and putting them in your pockets. The internal obliques are running the opposite direction, right? They're starting off low and then running up high into the middle of the body. Their action is to laterally flex and rotate the trunk. Same action as the oblique, but they pull you in the opposite direction. They also assist in trunk flexion when both contract. And when I say they pull you in the opposite direction, you can just take a look here at the orientation of those fibers. As those fibers shorten, they're going to rotate over to the right-hand side. Fibers run diagonally upward and towards the middle. And the transverse abdominis, its action is a little bit different than these others. The transverse abdominis is really important in giving you stability to the internal organs and overall trunk stability. So it's called the corset muscle, and it helps to compress your ribs and viscera, providing thoracic and pelvic stability. So if you've ever, set your gut in a little bit, right? Maybe you're seeing how it look and you kind of pull your stomach in a little bit, or if in a kind of exercise or more a kind of a sport related way, if you are working on rolling your shoulders up, straightening your body out, getting a nice strong abdomen, you're going to pull your stomach in a little bit to straighten up. That is when you're using that transverse abdominis. It's the deepest abdominal muscle. So there's your transverse abdominis, there's your internal oblique. There's another transverse abdominis, internal oblique. So the fibers of the transverse abdominis run transversely in a horizontal line across the body. Let's take a look at online demo of placement real quick. So you can see here's our internal oblique here, okay, wrapping around. Here's our, this is our external oblique and our internal oblique. And what I like about this picture is you can really see how the fibers are directed in the opposite direction of the external oblique. And this is a neat picture because it shows you how this wraps around to the back of the ribs a little bit. So it's wrapping around the side of the body. Here you can see the transverse abdominis. Okay, there's your rectus abdominis, and here's our transverse abdominis right next to it. You can see how those fibers are running transversely, and they are very deep. Okay, all right, and that's rectus abdominis again. So there's our transverse abdominis. So go ahead and practice those internal oblique movements. Rotate your trunk to the right, rotate your trunk to the left, and then practice your trunk flexion, which is when we bend forward. Again, you can link through to those videos. And then we got one more video to go here real quick before our 15 minutes is up. So for your transverse abdominis, everybody stand up and pull that stomach in a little bit, right? We're at the beach or we're doing yoga or other sports and we need to stabilize our core, right? This is not about how we look. Of course, it's about our athletic function and integrity. So here we go. Let's check out. This is a nice video that shows how that TA works. Guys, and for this video, we're going to go to the 224 mark. And you can see he's got a nice, his stomach is relaxed, and then he's pulling it in, right? Just like that. So when we relax, when we pull our stomach in, that's going to stabilize our core and help to compress those internal organs. This is actually really useful if anyone's. And I realized that I cut myself off there as I was switching back and forth from the video to the lecture. So just want to tell you guys real quick that using that transverse abdominis is really useful. If you've ever done any powerlifting or anything that requires a lot of abdominal stability, you're going to pull that right in and tighten up that stomach so you can have a nice strong core. All right, so that ends lab 1.3. Jump on over. There's a brief assignment on Canvas, and then it's off to lab 1.4, finishing up for the week. All right, guys, good stuff.